Thomas had spent several months in jail, his reputation in tatters, his wealth frozen, and his future uncertain. He was no longer the charming, powerful man he once was. Instead, he was a prisoner, tormented by the consequences of his dark rituals. His days were filled with the monotonous routine of prison life, and his nights were haunted by nightmares of those he had wronged. Yet, despite the dire situation, a sliver of hope remained. Thanks to his loyal followers and a particularly powerful ritual performed by his herbalist mentor, Thomas found himself a free man once more. The charges against him were mysteriously dropped, and he walked out of the prison gates with a renewed sense of purpose and a burning desire for revenge. The air outside felt foreign, almost as if the world had shifted while he was locked away. His heart pounded with a mix of exhilaration and rage. Anger and bitterness festered within him as he returned to the city. His once grand mansion was a shadow of its former glory, and the whispers of his past deeds haunted every corner. Neighbors who once envied him now regarded him with suspicion and disdain. Thomas knew that to reclaim his place among the wealthy elite, he needed to take drastic measures. His old rituals would no longer suffice, he needed to upgrade his practices and increase his power. Thomas visited the herbalist, now even more reclusive and enigmatic. The old man sensed the fury and desperation in Thomas's eyes. "You seek greater power," the herbalist said, his voice a raspy whisper. "Yes," Thomas replied, his voice filled with determination. "I want to upgrade the rituals. I want to become invincible." The herbalist nodded slowly. "There is a way, but it comes with a grave cost. The power you seek will shorten your life with each use. Are you prepared for such a sacrifice?" Thomas, blinded by his thirst for revenge and wealth, nodded without hesitation. The herbalist handed him a new set of ritual items and instructions, warning him once more of the dire consequences. The items were ominous, each carrying an air of ancient malevolence. But Thomas's mind was made up, he would not be deterred. With the upgraded rituals in his possession, Thomas began his quest for vengeance. He targeted those who had betrayed him, those who had stood against him, and, of course, the slay queens who had once fallen under his spell. His anger fueled his actions, and he performed the rituals with a ferocity that shocked even himself. The power he felt was intoxicating, and the sense of control was overwhelming. Thomas's upgraded rituals were incredibly powerful. His wealth grew exponentially, and he became the wealthiest man in the city. His businesses flourished, his influence spread far and wide, and he amassed a fortune that surpassed his wildest dreams. The slay queens, drawn by his newfound power and wealth, flocked to him in droves. They were unaware of the terrible price Thomas was paying with each encounter. For every moment of intimacy, Thomas's life was being drained, his vitality slipping away. But he ignored the signs, dismissing the herbalist's warnings as mere superstition. He reveled in his success, enjoying the luxuries and the adoration of those around him. His mansion was restored to its former glory, and his parties were more extravagant than ever. The rich tapestries, opulent furniture, and lavish decorations all screamed of his triumph. But as his wealth grew, so did the darkness within him. The rituals had taken a toll on his soul, and he became increasingly ruthless and cruel. He tormented the slay queens, using them for his own gain and discarding them without a second thought. His anger knew no bounds, and he took pleasure in the suffering he caused. His heart had hardened, and empathy had become a foreign concept. Despite his success, Thomas's life began to unravel. The effects of the upgraded rituals were becoming impossible to ignore. His health deteriorated rapidly, and he suffered from constant fatigue and pain. His once robust frame grew gaunt, and dark circles formed under his eyes. His businesses, once thriving, started to falter. Trucks broke down, deals fell through, and his once loyal followers began to turn against him. Thomas was in denial, refusing to accept that his own actions were causing his downfall. He stopped following the ritual orders, believing that he could maintain his wealth and power without them. But without the rituals to sustain him, everything he had built began to crumble. His mansion, once a symbol of his triumph, began to feel like a prison. One fateful night, as Thomas drove through the city, his mind clouded with desperation and anger, he failed to notice a speeding car heading straight towards him. The collision was catastrophic. Thomas's car was crushed, and he was thrown from the wreckage. He lay on the cold pavement, his life slipping away as the world around him blurred into darkness. The realization of his mistakes dawned on him in his final moments. Thomas's death was the final blow to the empire he had built on deceit and dark rituals. His wealth vanished, and the slave queens who had benefited from his riches found themselves destitute. Everything they had bought with his money was lost, their lives left in ruins. The once vibrant social circles he dominated were now filled with whispers of his downfall. The city moved on, but the story of Thomas, the relentless ritualist, remained a cautionary tale. His rise and fall were a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the moral compromises made in the pursuit of wealth. Those who knew him, or had been affected by his actions, were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. The luxurious mansion, now abandoned, stood as a ghostly monument to his hubris. In the end, Thomas's legacy was one of suffering and loss. His relentless pursuit of power had cost him his life and left a trail of devastation in its wake. The lesson was clear: appreciate what you have, for true wealth and happiness cannot be built on the suffering of others. God is always watching, and in time, He will answer your prayers. The slave queens, now facing the harsh realities of their choices, struggled to rebuild their lives. Some found solace in their families, others in newfound humility and hard work. The city, though scarred by Thomas's actions, began to heal. As for the herbalist, he disappeared into the shadows, his role in Thomas's rise and fall a mystery to most. The old man's warnings, though dismissed by Thomas, held a profound truth: the pursuit of power without regard for the cost leads only to ruin. And so, Thomas's story lived on, a grim reminder of the price of desperation and the importance of integrity.